John Felt here, and this is the Blue Water Outlook Weekly Briefing, February 8th, 2025. And I have a winter-like forecast I'm going to talk about for good parts of the nation with multiple snowstorms this week. Some pretty weak, but others going to provide for some winter weather disruption. Let's get started. A lot to talk about. First off, this is a typical La Nina winter, what we see. Wet conditions in the Ohio River Valley, wet in parts of the west. That's what we had last week. Pretty typical. We had an atmospheric river bringing moisture onshore into northern California. And then the Ohio River is getting action again this week, this past week, and again this week. So that's be an area of focus for flooding. Now, as far as snow goes last week, the action spots, in addition to the higher elevations of the west, have been the far upper Midwest, sort of a track from parts of North Dakota, or I guess I should say Montana, North Dakota, northern parts of Minnesota, Wisconsin, across the Great Lakes, and also New England. So what's been missing here is not much snow in these areas here to the south. These areas have no snow on the ground, and it's been pretty quiet. That could change this week. Okay, now as far as temperatures go, in a La Nina winter, the southern tier is warmer, and then we have some colder air up in this region here. And that, boy, I tell you, that looks like we're locked in here with that type of pattern, with the southern tier of the U.S. mild and the northwest on the cold side. Matter of fact, you want to see how cold it is? Take a look at parts of Montana and those areas that I mentioned that got the snow. Anything in blue, 0 or colder. Anything in purple, -10 or colder. You know, it also got my attention this morning, the moisture that's down here to the south. Sort of, if you're down in these areas here in that dark green, you're waking up and you're thinking, hey, it feels like spring out here. We have some moisture in the air. And if you're up here in this area, it is midwinter. So we have a gradient, and we have that gradient, that's where we get the action, usually between the gradient here. And we also have the possibility of taking some of this moisture and working it up into any boundaries that are in that region. So that's one of the reasons why I noticed that there. Sort of thought, okay, mid-60 dew points February, heavy rain potential, maybe even heavy snow potential. Okay, as far as rivers go, the action has been the Ohio, and you can see we're getting some high within bank or even minor flooding coming down here and then into the lower Mississippi. And that's from this time of year. That's probably not all that unordinary, but that is the area with La Nina that looks like it's going to be the focus as we get into late winter. Okay, so from the big picture, we're in an Arctic oscillation that's negative and expected to go significantly negative. And when we get that, that usually brings cold air outbreaks over large parts of the nation, especially the central and east. In addition to that, and let's take a look at the big picture here. Look at this dip in the jet stream. Sure don't see any sign of ridging high pressure at all. And this is a southwest flow, so embedded in this flow, we have what we call short waves. We have a number of them here, and each one of those is associated with some type of weather system at the Earth's surface. And it's also going to be moving very fast because it's embedded in this southwest flow. So we're going to have these systems come through, multiple winter weather systems this week. And it looks like the strongest one will be Wednesday, and behind that, we really open up the door here to some cold air pushing in behind it. So we look at the 5-day chunks of temperature here. You can see the southwest U.S. is going to enjoy some pleasantly warm weather, but other than that, large parts of the nation are going to be experiencing below normal temperatures. Look at this gradient in here, very strong gradient, and that's why it looks like good chances of heavy rain and heavy snow in spots. Behind that, this cold air sinks down to the south. Okay, so that's temperature. I wanted to show you Glasgow, Montana. That's sort of close to where the ground zero for the cold air is. And take a look at this. It's not going to even get above zero for most of next week. And overnight lows are going to be between 10 and 20 below as well. So really some cold air in parts of the northern Rockies and upper Midwest. Okay, so that's temperature. Let's talk about precipitation. Like I said, at least 3 storms, winter storms, or maybe I should say winter weather events, because some of them aren't going to be all that impressive. The first one this weekend affecting the northeast U.S. into New England. The second one's going to be a very fast one on maybe early in the week, Monday and Tuesday. Second one in the middle part of the week, Wednesday and Thursday. And this one looks like the strongest one. And then maybe another one late in the week. And we're going to have this dividing line here to the north, frozen precipitation, freezing and frozen. To the south, liquid precipitation. And then behind that, midweek one, you can see all the cold air settles in. So precipitation, west coast, we're going to have an onshore flow enhancing precipitation in the Sierras and the west coast. And then large parts of the from the Ohio River Valley down into the southeast, some very heavy rain in those areas. What about snow? Well, this is a sort of a coarse global model. So this will change once we get into the shorter term meso models. But you can see here, we're looking at some fairly heavy snow in maybe, let's sort of see here, right just north of that boundary in the cold air. And sort of right in here, we could have some heavy snow in these areas. So we'll see. Like I said, this could change, but parts of the Midwest could get a heavy snow. New England, maybe even parts of the eastern part of the U.S. Now let's look at week 2 here. What do we have? Well, the cold air lingers many parts of the nation, and it looks like it could be pretty active as far as rain and snow in the east. So a snowy, cold, and wet week across large parts of the central and eastern U.S. and the west coast. I'll be giving you updates as we go through the week. Have a great week. Enjoy the Super Bowl.